Parenting has changed. In the 50s and 60s, parenting for members of our community, members of the religious Jewish world across the country, in the 50s and 60s, parenting was just survival. Keep your job. Stay in a home. Have a house and don't be evicted. In the 70s and 80s, as we got our legs beneath us, many of the parents were children of either Holocaust survivors or war veterans. And what became the mode and the focus of being a great parent was discipline. And many people in this room remember their parents were disciplinarians. And that's what it was about. And this is my word. And that's what I said. And the reason you do it is because I said so. And then we started to watch as kids slowly started to fade. You'd have a boy in this family, a girl in that family that was perfect, the other family that was completely religious. You'd watch kids all of a sudden lose the path. And in the 90s and 2000s, parenting became about love. And all of a sudden, even the teachers in schools and the way parents were all hugging their kids and caring about them, and I love you and I'm there for you and I'm caring. So parenting went from survival to discipline to love. And all three of those concepts are incredibly relevant today. Everyone still is in survival mode. Children still need an incredible amount of discipline, and they definitely need your care and your love. But in the last 10 years, parenting has changed. And there's a new quality that every parent needs to bring for every child, whether they're 2 years old or 40 or 50 years old. What your children need now is to be understood. They need to feel like you get it. Because the challenges of 40 years ago was physical burdens. Our kids today don't have that many physical burdens. All of what they're carrying is up here. And they need a mother and a father, not just a mother, and a father that gets it and understands them and spends the time and puts in the energy to get what's on their mind. What are you struggling with? What do you like? Why do you like it? Why is that a struggle? So many parents, especially busy ones, come home and see their daughter care about something or their son, and it's a bunch of nonsense. And you come home to your kid, you're like, who cares? And you make comments like that, and you make lines like that, and a daughter will be jealous of a classmate, and you're like, why are you jealous of other kids? Who cares about that? We're blessed. It's nonsense to worry. And you don't realize what you're doing to your child. Has your kid ever told you, you lived in the olden days? What they're saying to you is, you don't get me. And because of that, I have no plans of ever getting you.
The Torah records when Yaakov Avinu hears the chet of Ruvain, that Ruvain, Vayishkav, the Pilegesh Aviv, so there's a pay, it says, Vayishma Yisro. Yaakov Avinu hears that the sin was committed, pay, pause, in the middle of a pasuk, and then it says, Vayiyu b'nei Yaakov, Shnei Maser, there were 12 Shivtei Ka. What connection? Says the Sifornu, that Yaakov Avinu's respond to the chet of Ruvain, the quote-unquote chet of Ruvain. What was his response? His son has sinned. What was his response? Says the Sifornu, Vayiyu b'nei Yaakov Shnei Maser, I have 12 Shvatim. No standing was lost. You are who you thought I was, who I thought you were. His standing wasn't lost. That was his response to the chet of Ruvain. Vayiyu b'nei Yaakov Shnei Maser, nothing has changed. Punishments perhaps are needed, consequence, all different things. Your standing isn't lost. Vayiyu b'nei Yaakov shnei masar. There are 12 shiftei ka. You are who you thought I was. Your standing is not lost. The keeping the dignity of the person, seeing a great person, seeing a precious person. There's an unbelievable Rashi in Yevamos Kuf Yod Zayin. Rashi in a Lashon Acher of Rashi says that in Rabbi Hizbir Loi Panim, if a Rebbe gives a saver panim, a smiley face is a smile. What's a saver panim? The word saver means internal. Svara. It means I hold of you. If a Rebbe holds of a Talmud, Hizbir Loi Panim, machkem imenu. A child learns from a Rebbe who holds of him. V'im lav lo yachkem imenu. If a Rebbe or a parent doesn't hold of a child, the child doesn't learn from him. The Rambam in Hilchos Talmud Torah says a chiyuv on a Rebbe to be mechabed his talmidim. The kaveh doesn't mean external, doesn't mean not to say mean things. Not only that, it means internally to hold of a person. Ikar kaved is b'machshava. It's to hold of a person, to believe in a person.
Rabbi Verstanen, I heard this directly from my Shogeg Reb Chaim, not 8 One day they brought a Pepsi Cola machine into Lakewood Yeshiva, which was then on Forest Avenue on the corner of 7th. They brought a Pepsi Cola machine. Rabbi Yankel Schiff, the Biskurov's son-in-law, was an American boy. He came to the Baron, Pepsi Cola in the Yeshiva. He goes, Rabbi Yankel Schiff was a guy that we knew him very well. My father was his Rebbe in Tervadas. So he says, it can't be in the Yeshiva. And you know what happened? The Baron answered him, Americana Bachrim, Dafn haben Pepsi Cola. How did Baron know what Pepsi Cola even was? He knew. He went to Simchus. In those days, by the way, Klal Yisrael thought Coke was treif. I met it myself. In the 50s and the 60s, they thought it was treif. Whatever it was. Today, you drink Pepsi, right? Not a problem. And so everybody drank Pepsi in those days. Baron said, you have to work with kids today in a nice oifen. You can't work with them. It means building a relationship. It means spending time with them. It means really working with them. That's the biggest yesod of chinuch. Not to make things unhappy for them. My father was a very, it's a joke. My father. He really was an Alta Mirror who came here, was Manal of Tervadas for many, many years, but he was strong. We didn't, whenever we decided to stop Chalav Stam, that's when we stopped. There was much more in those days, because today you can have whatever you want in the Chol Yisrael. Whatever you want, you get in the candy. Those days, nothing. You read the ingredients, right? It didn't say animal fat. You ate it. That's all. Whatever the ingredients was. There was no such thing. Oh, you okay? Nothing. So you looked at the ingredients. That's what But my father never. But 19 years old, decided I'm going to eat Chol Yisrael. Only Chol Yisrael. They didn't pressure us. My parents were way ahead of their times. No pressure whatsoever on us. You can't. On children, you got them undisciplined. If your wife wants them in bed at 10 o'clock, get them into bed at 10 o'clock. No ifs, ands, or buts. You have every right, 100%, to make sure that they're doing, they have to do that. That's discipline. You have to have that. But it doesn't mean pressure. Pressure is a different world. I have no suffix now. Again, the children that I have met that are off the derech, I met a number of them in my life. It's not my specialty. Come out, all of them, universal, felt pressure in their homes. They felt pressure in their homes. Unhappy homes. Unhappy homes.
There's also different types of trauma. There's what's called today developmental trauma. A child who's in the classroom for years and the child feels like a loser, even if nobody insulted him and nobody beat him and nobody molested him or her. But sometimes this child feels so much pain from their connection with this place. And as a result of that, they're going to shut down. They're going to become disconnected. They're going to go offline. So we have to always be alert and aware of what our children are going through. Our children are very sensitive today. And some children are very sensitive, uniquely sensitive. We call them HSP, highly sensitive people. Now, you may not know anything and suddenly your child is 15 or 16 or 17 and you start seeing things. So the most important thing is don't react from a place of anger and from a place of ignorance. You need to realize that maybe this child went through something or is going through something, and we need to be able to be there for them. Now, when they're so young, they may not be able to talk about it. They may not even know. It may be repressed. It may be subconscious. And that's why it's even more important that we hold on tight to them, It's important that they feel connected to us. It's important that they feel safe. You see, every child needs the 4 S's. Every child needs to feel safe in that home, secure, seen, and soothed. Safe, secure, seen, and soothed. Very, very important. That gives a child healthy attachment. And when they grow up, they can develop healthy relationships. If they didn't have that, if they didn't feel safe, if they didn't feel secure, if they didn't feel seen, if they didn't feel soothed, they may have attachment that is very wounded, and it's going to translate later in their relationships, in their friendships, and in their marriages. So we need to make sure that as they grow up and they're struggling, they feel their safety. They feel they're secure. They feel that we see them and that we can soothe them. And then hopefully we can help them feel that connection and attachment. So we don't become the enemies. They don't have to fight us. If you fight them, you become the enemy. And now all their anger comes out at you. But if their parents are their greatest allies, they don't have to fight you. You're there for them. And when you're there for them, what happens is as they get older, they could look inside and see, what's going on in my life? My father and mother are not the worst people in the world. And then they could slowly seek the help that they need. Sometimes it takes time. Not the 16-year-olds don't usually go to therapy successfully. There comes a certain age in life where we can't just throw out commandments on our young children and hope they're just going to jump and say yes. Once they're getting older, once they become teenagers, ultimately, they have to make their own decisions. And our job at that moment is not to control them, because you can't. You can't. At some point, another month, another year, they're going to be independent. So my job at that moment is not to control and not to get angry. My job at that moment is to bond, to connect. I want to be able to be close to them so I can inspire them. I can model behavior for them. I could be close to them. We can have conversations. We could connect in a deep way. That's the most important thing.
The Brisker Rov says a legendary vart Rosh Yeshiva Shlita brought out. Vishinantam levanecha ela talmidim. So what doesn't it say Vishinantam letalmidecha? Said the Brisker Rov maybe 70 years ago, you talk to the average Maggid Shir about his Shir. And he spends a half an hour talking about the 5 boys that are Elyon. They know Shas, Bavli, Yerushalmi, the Mechadish Chedushim. And maybe 5 minutes about the Beinani. And about the 5 that are unreachable, unsalvageable, a shling up at Medrai Sekunda. 3 seconds. But talk to a parent about his 9 children. And the first one they talk about is the one that's zigging instead of zagging. The one that isn't connected. The one that's disenfranchised. The one they're struggling with. They'll spend 2 hours talking about that child. Elu HaTalmidim means that a Rebbe has to parent every child as if it's his child. And a parent has to parent every child as if it's a Talmud. Because like the Rosh Yeshiva said, the Messiah of Torah is a partnership. And it's a chiyuv on parents. I mentioned an insight for Moshe Soloveitchik Zatzal. We all are familiar with the words in Shir Hashirim, Ani l'doidi v'doidi li. I am to the Rebbeinu Shalom and he is to me. But there's another pasuk. Doidi li v'ani loi haroya b'asheishanim. It starts there with Hashem, who's a roya b'asheishanim. For Moshe Soloveitchik Zatzal, Rosh Yeshiva of Switzerland, what does it mean to be a roya, a shepherd with sheishanim? He explained, there's a roya b'koil with a booming voice. When the errant sheep are off the path, he gets them back by screaming. There's a roya b'makel. He has a staff, and he hits them, nips them to get back. There's a roya b'kelav with a sheep's dog. But then there's a roya b'asheishanim. The fragrance of Kiddush, the fragrance of the mitzvahs of Torah causes these sheep never to veer from the path. And if yes, they smell the fragrance, the aroma, and they come right back. That to me was the embodiment of Shmuel Birnbaum. and all the Rosh Yeshivas and Rabbanim and Gedolim and Talmidei Chachamim of Klal Yisrael. And we have to become Royim B'Sheishanim. How do you make Kiddush? My Rebbetzin Morabela was a nursery school teacher for many, many years. So she has a Shabbos party like everybody else. They used to dress up with one of my old hats. In the old days, it was the down brim hat. And a tie, nearly strangle themselves. The boys, the girls would put on a tichel. And they would feign as if they're lighting Shabbos candles. And the boy would make Kiddush, lift up the bech of the 3-4-year-old. And each child made Kiddush the way his father made Kiddush. Some stood, some sat. Our minhag is to stand and to sit. So there was another child in a different nursery school, not in Morabela's, that made Kiddush as follows. Picked up the becha and said, "Boy, is this a tough week? What an impossible economy. Do it to them before they do it to you. Because that's how his father made Kiddush. I said it over in Stolin. And the Stolin young man told me his wife was also a ganenet, a nursery school teacher. And the children were making Kiddush, and this little boy picked up the becha and said, "Mommy, I want to thank you for preparing such a delicious meal. Kinderlach, thank you for setting the table, for not fighting, for looking scrubbed for Shabbos. Yom HaShishi, v'erev ha'aveka Yom HaShishi." How do you want your children to make Kiddush?
There was a Yid in Yerushalayim in HaKodesh. He was a Vesikin Yid. Every morning, stood up the Sikin, went to daven the Sikin. He came home after the nets, had a little breakfast, went to sleep. And 9 o'clock he woke up and went to work. He had this minhag every day at 9 o'clock, a few minutes before 9 o'clock, when the school bus comes to pick up the children, he had his daily hug that he gave for all his children with a kiss. One day, he woke up late. And he saw that he will not have the time because he had still a meeting. He still had to do a few things, so he just went into his car and went to the job. He can't be late. So there's a meeting, the boss said everybody has to come early tomorrow. And pink the other tug, he woke up late. On his way going to the job, he gets a phone call. You see, home. You know, it's not so exciting, the phone call, it says home. The klal starts right away. No, Mincha Kiddush. Someone told me, you know, Malach, you killed my Shalom Bayis. Why? Because I was driving my car, and my wife calls in, and she says, "Yeah, Moshe was titzich." So I started saying, service. None of that you can't hear, there's no service. My wife tells me, yeah, but Malach Shir in the background doesn't cut up. How does it work? It doesn't break up. So, he gets this phone call, and here it's his little boy on the phone. "Tati, I'm soon going to the bus. Where are you? I'm waiting for this hug. I'm waiting for the good morning." "Yes, Shefel, I'm so sorry. Today I cannot do it because I have the job in the meeting. I must be in the job." Okay, bye. That's it. Today won't be any hug. But mamish a minute before the bus came, suddenly the boy sees Tati's car is back. And Tati went out. He told him, "Listen, I couldn't stand this pain. The way you finished the phone call, here you have your hug. Shefel, good morning. And you should have a lot of atzluch in Chayder." Years went by. It was by the last Sheder Bruchis of this boy. The chassan stood up and he said his little drusha and he thanked his parents for all the years of the chinuch. And he says, and if you want to ask me, what is the moment that I remember from all the years? And then he said this story. He said the story of that morning when Tati came back with his car and he gave me this hug and he told me good morning. The father stood up after this drasha, and he started talking his drasha, and he said, "You know, I'm thinking now, as the chassan speaks, and he's saying the story, I forgot the story already. You remind me, I remember that day. And here I'm thinking to myself, it's about 12 or 13 years passed since then. This chassan remembers what I did for him. How many chances is that the boss still remembers that I came late that day to the work? 0. He doesn't remember. So look, then, 13 years ago, by that morning, what looked by me so chashuv now? What was my first, I must be a time. You look, it's 13, 14 years later. Is it still so chashuv? Nothing happened. And the thing that I almost kicked it aside, big deal. So I won't give this hug for this boy. Won't tell him good morning. 14 years later, look how he remembers it. Sometimes we don't do the right decision because we look for now. Look at the future. Look what is really important. What is really important? I know for now it's really important. Panusa Barchuva. Are you ready to give it up? Are you ready to give up something to be mashkia a bit more in your children and to be zoiche to it? We're in such a golus today. I once heard a word. There's a posik in Tehillim, Shomreini ki ishoin bas oyen. David HaMelech asked from Hashem, Rebbeinu Shalom, Shomreini, heat of me, save me, ki ishoin bas oyen, like the schwarz apple from the oig. We use in English, the black apple of the eye. So David HaMelech, he asks from Hashem Shmira. But Shomreini ki ishoin bas oyen, the same way that a person gets acting of the oigen, that's the way you should. Why? Why do you need this example? We all know that it's a very geschmacky thing when we're children to get a glet. Yeah, a glet was a nice thing. A glet. When you were a little child, you came to your father, to your grandfather, oh, Shefel, a glet. A glet is something, makes me feel so good. So I still had melamdim that I used to give glad but on a speed. Wasn't that it weighed like times 3. And this is a glad that hurts. So we know a shmaki glad like this is a very good feeling. A patch is not the best feeling. And it could be in the face, it could be in the back, in every place. A good pat in the back is geschmack. A zetz is not so good. There's one place in your body where the glad and the patch hurts the same, is by Isher and Bas Oyen. Never glet someone else or yourself by the Isher and Bas Oyen. You don't want to glet there. Over there, the glet and the patch is the same hurtful. You don't touch Isher and Bas Oyen. David HaMelech tells us a gewaldige thing here. You should know that in Golus, there's going to be 2 types of Golusen. There's going to be the Golus when literally a goy hits a Jew. It's very painful. It's very painful. And we ask Hashem that this anti-Semitism that's growing and growing should stop already. We should be nigal to this thing. But there's something same painful like this patch is when the goy gives us a glet. A glet from a goy is not less painful and not less hurtful than a patch of a goy. When the goy laughs to us and he's good to us, and our children can be exposed to any nish gita zach, it's even more painful than a frask. And we ask Rebbeinu Shalom Shomreini ki Isha and Bas Oyen. We're asking Shmir of our children like Isha and Bas Oyen. We shouldn't have a shaykhis with the goyish welt, not only apart from them, mainly a glet of the goy. We have to be very, very open. It's a world of exposure, and the world laughs to our children. They smile to our children. They have everything. Everything is accessible. Everything, and we have to fight this battle.